There's a good chance something is wrapped around them. A sock, a sneaker, a sandal strap. You probably didn't think twice about putting it on this morning. It feels as natural as breathing. But here's the strange part. For most of human history, that thing on your feet did not exist. Your ancestors walked barefoot through ice, through thorns, through frozen mud for hundreds of thousands of years. No cushioned soles, no grip, just skin against the world. Most people assume shoes came along early, right alongside fire and spears. That's not quite right. The truth is far stranger. Scientists actually found the moment shoes entered human life, and they didn't find it in a museum. They found it hiding inside our bones. This is the story of how your feet got their armor. Stay till the end, because the last part changes how you'll feel about every step you take today. Let's rewind further than you'd expect. Homo sapiens have existed for roughly 300,000 years. For the vast majority of that time, there is no clear evidence of footwear at all. Feet just met the ground directly, and that shaped the body in ways you can still study today. Ancient human skeletons had thick, heavy leg bones, strong, gripping toes, wide, tough feet built like natural hiking boots. Every step outdoors was a workout, and the skeleton adapted to survive it. So how do we know when that changed? You can't carbon date a shoe that rotted away 20,000 years ago. Leather and plant fiber don't survive that long in most conditions, so for decades, the true origin of footwear seemed impossible to pin down. Then, in the early 2000s, an anthropologist at Washington University named Eric Trinkaus tried something clever. He stopped looking for the shoes. He started looking at the toes. Trinkaus studied ancient toe bones from Europe and noticed something odd. Around 40,000 years ago, something shifted. Leg bones stayed just as thick and strong as before, but the smaller toes suddenly got noticeably thinner, weaker, almost fragile compared to earlier humans. He called it bluntly, wimpy toes. Now here's the reasoning that made this discovery famous. When you walk barefoot, your toes grip the ground with every step, like tiny anchors. That constant gripping builds toe strength over a lifetime. But when a stiff sole comes between your foot and the earth, that gripping reflex disappears. The toes stop working as hard, and over generations, they get smaller. Trinkaus published this in the Journal of Archaeological Science, arguing that this exact bone shift marks the moment supportive footwear entered human life, not sandals for fashion, survival gear. So what happened 40,000 years ago that suddenly made shoes worth inventing? Picture it. Ice Age Europe, brutal winters, frozen rivers. Frostbite wasn't just uncomfortable, it was a death sentence. Lose your toes to frostbite, and you can't hunt. You can't flee predators. You become a burden to the group, or worse, you don't survive the season. Early humans needed a way to keep their feet functional in conditions the human body was never built for. And once someone figured out how to wrap fur or hide around a foot, it would have spread fast because the payoff was immediate. Warmer feet, fewer injuries, a longer hunting range. It's one of the earliest examples of humans literally re-engineering their own bodies through technology. And in a strange way, we've never stopped. But bones only tell part of the story. What did those first shoes actually look like? For that, we need to jump forward to real physical evidence that somehow survived. In 1938, an archaeologist named Luther Cressman was excavating a cave in Oregon called Fort Rock. Beneath a thick layer of volcanic ash, he found something remarkable. Dozens of sandals woven from sagebrush bark buried in the dry cave floor. The dry air had done what almost never happens in nature. It preserved them. Decades later, radiocarbon dating confirmed just how old they were, somewhere between 9,000 and over 10,000 years old. To this day, they're the oldest directly dated shoes ever discovered on Earth. Just imagine being the person who first laced sagebrush bark around your foot, testing it, walking on it, realizing it worked. That single decision echoed for 10,000 years, all the way into a glass display case in a university museum. But here's what's fascinating. Sandals were only the beginning. Different environments forced humans to invent completely different solutions. In the reed marshes of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, people wove open sandals from palm leaves, perfect for hot, dry ground. In colder regions, early peoples in North America shaped snug moccasins from animal hide, built to trap warmth against the skin. The shoe wasn't one invention, it was dozens of separate inventions, each one a direct answer to a specific threat the local environment posed to bare feet. And nowhere is that clearer than in one of the most incredible archaeological discoveries in history. In 1991, hikers in the Alps stumbled onto a frozen body sticking out of melting ice. It turned out to be a man who died there roughly 5,300 years ago. Scientists named him Ötzi, and astonishingly, his clothing survived alongside him, frozen in time, including his shoes. When researchers examined them closely, they found something surprisingly advanced. The sole was bearskin, tough and durable. The upper was deerskin, wrapped and laced with leather cord, and packed inside tightly woven grass, acting exactly like modern insulation. In 2004, a Czech shoe researcher named Petr Hlavacek Monk built an exact replica and wore it on a 12-mile hike to the very glacier where Ötzi was found. He walked through freezing streams in them. He said his feet stayed warm within seconds and he developed no blisters at all. A shoe designed over 5,000 years ago by someone with no science, no factories, no textbooks, outperformed some of what we wear today. That's not primitive. That's engineering built purely through trial, error, and desperation to survive. So what does all of this actually mean for the shoes on your feet right now? Every sneaker, every boot, every flip-flop you own is the direct descendant of a survival tool built to stop frostbite from ending a life in an ice age winter. The stitching, the sole, the shape wrapping your foot, all of it traces back through Ötzi's grass-stuffed boots, through Fort Rock's woven sagebrush, all the way to a change carved quietly into human toe bones 40,000 years ago. And once shoes stopped being about survival, something else crept in. They became a signal. In ancient Rome, enslaved people were forced to go barefoot, while free citizens wore sandals as a visible marker of status. In medieval Europe, aristocrats wore shoes with tips so long and pointed they had to be stuffed just to walk in them, purely to display wealth and idle leisure. Centuries later, a French king restricted red-heeled shoes to nobility alone. What started as pure survival slowly turned into one of the oldest, quietest ways humans have ever announced who they are to a room without saying a single word. And that's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Somewhere along the way, the object that once saved our ancestors' toes from freezing off became something else entirely, a status symbol, a fashion statement, a $100 decision made in a store, disconnected almost completely from the desperate Ice Age innovation that made it possible in the first place. Every time you tie a lace or slide on a sandal, you're repeating a gesture that is at least 40,000 years old, a gesture born out of pure cold necessity. Somewhere behind every pair of shoes ever made is a person who was cold, who was hurting, who looked down at their bare, aching feet and refused to accept that as the end of the story. We rarely think about it. Most of us never even notice the miracle wrapped around our own 2 feet, but it's there with every single step.